Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? I want to discuss Joel Embiid's injury and how it will affect this team moving forward until he returns and realistically after he returns, because let's be real, I don't expect him to come back and just be in game shape. We're talking about Joel Embiid here. And I also want to discuss the current state of the Sixers and how I feel about them right now, because I get attacked based off the fact that I have more of an optimistic view on this team and I don't just crush them to the point of they stink, they're the worst team in the history of the NBA. So I want to get my point across on why I feel the way that I do. But before we do that, you need to hear a word from my sponsor, SeatGeek. Are you looking to buy tickets to go to a game, whether it's the Sixers, Flyers, any game you are looking for? If you want $20 off, I can give that to you. If you use the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page, you get $20 off of your purchase. That is free parking. You could put that money towards beer if you'd like, or food. It's a no-brainer to use the promo code BROADS today. Now, let's just talk about Joel Embiid first. This injury, it sucks. It absolutely sucks, and it seems like every year Joel Embiid misses a significant amount of time based off of some sort of injury, or something happens, whether it's the face, or now the finger, or we had the problems with the knee in the past. And look, some of those things, it's out of his control. When Markelle Fultz comes down and ends up hitting him in the face, I mean, it is what it is, right? That's nobody's fault. That's just the sport of basketball being played, and something happens. But it just seems like there's always something that happens when it comes to this guy. My biggest concern is, and it's something that I have been concerned about all season long, if you have been following the coverage, they don't play enough together. This team does not play enough together. And when you look at the numbers of when these guys play together, there is a disconnect when Al Horford's in the lineup with Joel Embiid. When you look at their points per 100 possessions, it's a big-time difference with Al Horford and how he scores and how he is utilized. So it's going to be annoying knowing that this team, throughout however long this takes, will be playing a different style of basketball in a totally different game than when Joel Embiid is in the mix. And when that happens, that'll be the playoffs, right? Like when Joel Embiid comes back in the mix, and it's very important, it'll be in the playoffs. And this team is going to have to play a totally different style, more fast-paced basketball. And that's not what this team needs. This team needs to play together and find ways to gel as a unit. And they are going to miss the most important player when it comes to that. So he's going to be reevaluated in a week or two, and I'm just going to be honest with you. It's going to be about 2 months or so, in my opinion. Now, I had surgery on my thumb, and it's a little bit different than this surgery, but at the time I was playing college hockey, and listen, I don't have an NBA medical staff with me, but they gave me the standard 4 to 6 weeks, and I had my hopes up. I was very optimistic. Oh, I'll be back by week 4. I'll be good to go. It'll be great. It took me over 8 weeks because there's so much to it afterwards, rehabbing. I'm sitting there for days and hours squeezing this ball and then going to rehab and doing all kinds of range of motion stuff, and I couldn't even pick up a stick. I literally could not even pick up my hockey stick until about 7 weeks in. So listen, it's going to be a little bit of time for Joel Embiid. It's not just going to be fixed. Everything's going to be good, and then he's going to be able to pick up the basketball again and just dribble. There's a rehab that goes into this. I'm going to expect about 2 months or so, and then we need to work Joel Embiid back into shape. Now, they should be having him run and having him in shape and having him do some sort of stuff that will keep his endurance up throughout this break that he's going to have from playing basketball. But we know Joel Embiid. We've seen him long enough here in Philadelphia. Once he misses a little bit of time, he's done. He's cooked. He's out of shape. It just goes that way. It's just the nature of his body. So I am really concerned because I need this team to play together as a unit. I need this team to figure it out. This starting 5, I need them to play together as a full team, and that will not happen for a decent amount of time. And then when he does get back in the mix, it's about finding rhythm. I'm so concerned with not being able to figure out the best way to utilize this roster when it comes down to the playoffs. And because they never play together, because Joel misses one game, Al Horford's load managed, and then Josh Richardson missed significant amount of time, and because all of this keeps happening throughout the season. Now, when one man like this goes out, it's really brutal. And you look back at it and say, this team never plays a full roster. And like I stated, he's the most important one. I actually heard a few people screaming at him saying he's soft and he needs to play through this. Okay, what? That's a joke, really. I mean, clearly to me, that's just a troll. If you can fix the issue before the playoffs, you absolutely do that. And obviously, he had a ton of doctors talk to him about this. He had a ton of specialists see his finger. Yeah, you get the surgery now. There's no reason to play through it. I don't even know if he medically could be cleared to play through it. I know he finished that one game with it, but it makes no sense to finish the regular season and go through the playoffs with this dangling finger if you can get it fixed now and then work your way back to the playoffs. That's the only way to do it. It's not even a discussion. It's a no-brainer. That's the only way to do it. I couldn't believe the amount of people, though, that believed he was being soft and he's a joke. And what are you talking about? A finger that's holding you back? Yes, it is. You're talking about a sport where you dribble the basketball and then you shoot with the ball. And what do you mean? Yes, absolutely that would hold you back from being able to do certain things. He did it for one game. Okay, the adrenaline's involved. They snapped it back into place. It needed surgery. It wasn't just a standard dislocated finger. There's way more to it. But anyway, I digress from that. I'm just frustrated because I know this team needs to figure it out. And they have not figured it out yet with Al Horford and these players. As I've stated all season long, that does not mean trade everyone and start over and move over this roster again and turn the page and turn over the roster again and mix in new players and get rid of everyone because that's not working. No, the answer is figure it out. That's how this works. Figure it out. And now this will hurt the team when it comes to figuring it out. Now let's get to the optimistic view and where I stand on things. I knew a long time ago that this team, how they are right now when it comes to depth, when it comes to bench play, when it comes to having real shooters, like legitimate shooters on this team. I knew a while ago that they are not a legit NBA title contender, okay? You look at what LeBron James and the Lakers are doing. You look at what Milwaukee does on a nightly basis. The Sixers are not there. I knew that a while ago. So while I'm optimistic, the way I look at it is I'm not just going to be so disappointed and hate this team and just freak out on them every single day because they're not good enough to win a championship. I'm still going to embrace the ride. I'm going to embrace the up and downs. And when it comes down to the playoffs, whatever seed they come into, whatever team they have to play, whatever two teams they have to play, if they end up winning the first round, I know that when they are willing to compete, that they are capable of winning a game. Like when they are on the top of their game, which we have seen so far this season against good opponents, they can take down those opponents. So I'm optimistic because I don't have an NBA title on my mind thinking that's what they're going to do. I just don't. I've changed my mindset a long time ago on how good they really are. But I know that if they go into the playoffs, they're capable of winning a round, winning 2 rounds, and possibly getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, it's not ridiculous to think that. They are frustrating, and people say they suck because fans had such high expectations, thinking it was NBA Finals or bust, and that was the mindset going into the season. So if they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, well, they stink, they're horrible and all of that because it's not the goal that you set up for at the beginning of the season. And listen, if that's the way you want to do it, if that's the mindset you want to have, that's fine. But once I realize they're not it, and once I realize they don't have it to really win a title, I'm not just going to say, well, I'm out on this season, screw them, and freak out and never watch them and scream left and right every single game or whenever they have a bad game. I understand what they are. I've stated this in my last recap video when they played the Dallas Mavericks. To get upset about this game, that game, and to be pumped about that win and this win, at this point, you should know what this team is, right? So I already have an idea on what this team really is. I know what they're capable of doing. I know where they're at. I realistically know what their ceiling is, and I know what their floor is. So I know what they are. And I know that they can compete against good teams. I know that they can struggle too. I've seen them struggle. I've seen their offense look abysmal, but I've also seen them play at the best, and I've seen them play at the top of the game. And when they do play at the top of the game, it's the top of the Eastern Conference type talent. So I see it possible of a second round exit. I see it possible of an Eastern Conference final. I see it in that ballpark, but I'm not going to cry and totally destroy everything about this team. Who knows? Like, nobody knows, right? This is all just opinion based and based off of what we have seen so far this season, but you don't know the answer on what they're going to do, so just sit back and watch the damn games. Instead of being pessimistic and hating the team and trading everyone after every game. Why? Why do you want to live that way? Haven't you seen enough positives where you know when they are willing to turn it on that they can do damage? Like, you've seen it, right? And yes, you've seen them struggle against bad teams and unacceptable losses where they don't show up against Washington in DC where they lose to the Wizards, which is frustrating, but you're telling me you're going to feel the same way if it's a playoff game late or early in the springtime and they're playing the Miami Heat. Haven't we beaten the Miami Heat? Why would you feel the same way about that game than you would against going into DC on a December night at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday? You know what I'm saying? So just relax, really, is what I'm getting to at the end of the day. There's no reason to get so insanely emotional about every little thing, and you need to come up individually. You all need to come up with what you think this team is and be realistic. Don't tell me they're a first round exit team. Don't tell me they're not a playoff team. Where are they? Do they not fall in the second round, which is what we have seen over the last few years? Which I understand that's not good enough, but this is where they realistically are. And if they fall that way, then changes will be made. Brett Brown will be fired, and he's the first to go. You don't start moving pieces until you bring a new coach in here. But let's get back to it. Don't you think a realistic thing to say is they're a second round loss type of team? They can win the second round. Now, why couldn't they? But why couldn't they say beat the Pacers and beat the Heat or beat the Raptors and beat the Heat? But why can't they? They can absolutely lose, but it's not impossible to think they can win, right? So a second round loss team, an Eastern Conference Finals type team and lose there. Why can't you see them in that ballpark? Because they lose on the road to bad teams? Just picture what they look like when it is a big moment, when they are checked in, because that's what the playoffs are. They are big games where everyone is dialed in. It's not a random November game on Tuesday night against a team that has nobody on it. And that's where the letdowns always happen. And I understand the flaws with this team. I'm not saying they're not flawed. I think the half-court set is bad at times. I think that there is something to be said about the spacing and what Ben Simmons does offensively when Joel Embiid is on the floor with Al Horford and Ben trying to go to the dunker spot because that's where he's comfortable. Absolutely, there are things to be worried about and concerned about. And that's why they're in the mix of a second-round exit type of team, and which can go either way kind of thing. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but that's just how it has to be. Because if you have this mindset that it is this team and it's not, well, you're just going to be totally out of it when it comes to what is real, when it comes to what this team can actually get done. And they do need to attack this bench, and what it looks like Elton Brand is doing is going to Detroit, picking up the phone and seeing what they have when it comes to availability. And Luke Kennard is a player that can knock down threes. We don't have that type of player on this bench. I've been through this bench before. Matisse Thybulle's a nice spark plug, but he hasn't hit a shot since he has been back. He's a piece that will be beneficial for this team moving forward. The team loves him. He's a spark plug. He brings the defensive intensity, and he's always active with his hands. He can slide. He can provide minutes without a doubt, but they don't have a scorer. Mike Scott was brought back so he can knock down threes. All the guy does is sit by the perimeter and shoot the basketball. He's been embarrassing this year, and he hurts the team. It's to the point where he should not even log any minutes, but there are no other alternatives for the guy. Luke Kennard would be a very fascinating player, and he would be beneficial to what this team needs. It needs shooting. It needs players who can legitimately knock down shots consistently. When someone shoots the ball on this team, there's no one where you look at it and say, that's going in. That's money. I mean, Tobias Harris at times can knock down shots, but no one is like, yes, that's going in, to the level of, say, J.J. Redick. When J.J. Redick used to let it fly, you knew instantly. You're hanging out in front of your TV, you're putting up the 3 symbol because you know it's going in. The Sixers need to find a bench piece that can do that. Luke Kennard would be very interesting. There's also Galloway in the mix. Now, he's a combo guard. It's not to the same level of what Luke Kennard can bring when it comes to shooting the ball, but it would still be a big-time help. I know Derrick Rose was thrown out there, but that's a different situation. I think he would definitely help this team as well, but it seems like Luke Kennard would be the perfect fit for what this team needs right now. Elton needs to pick up the phone. That needs to be a direction that this team goes in. That will definitely help this team moving forward. It could potentially be the difference on getting it to a farther round, making that next step, getting there. Because the bench depth is a problem. James Ennis is a nice offensive rebounder, another spark plug, but when he lets it go from three, you're not confident in it. He can make it sometimes, but we're talking about a confident, legit shooter. Don't even think about bringing up the name Furkan Korkmaz. Don't do it. Do not do it. He won't even touch the damn floor in the postseason, and if he does, it's going to be bad. Lastly here, before we bring it around full circle, it's going to go back to Ben Simmons right now, and he's been a hot topic of discussion. I just don't get it, because I see something that he brings to the table that apparently some people don't see, and some respected guys in the media too. I'm hearing people who have covered this team for a while questioning what this team should do. Are you kidding me? It's a no-brainer to me. This guy stays here. He is too special. Frustrating, absolutely. The answer is not to trade someone who's frustrating like that. It's to fix the problem. And what he brings on the defensive side of the floor is too big for me. I can't pass that up. You will not get that type of play against Luka Doncic with anybody. He brings it to the defensive side of the floor every single game. And it hurts the team offensively. I understand that. But so will a player who scores 30 points or 28 points or 26 points who gets toasted on the defensive side of the floor every night because they just don't have that type of versatility. It's not flashy. You can't really see it when it comes to points. You can't measure it. And I understand that's why it's a different type of thing to notice. Because you can see someone dropping 25 plus. You got to realize and understand the game differently to see what Ben Simmons is bringing to the table at the backside. I'm talking defensive player of the year type defense. It's too much to just pass up on. You're going to have to find a way to get it out of him, get that offensive side out of him. But I'm not passing him up for anyone. I'm not trading him just because I'm frustrated and emotional and reactionary with what Ben Simmons does on the offensive side of the floor. It's work with him and get it the hell out of him. Because he has that special gene in him. It's taking a little bit of time to work it out of him. By the way, when it comes to turnovers, you do know that this team had a big-time issue with turnovers this season. Over the last 15 games, they are fourth best team in the NBA with turning the ball over 12.2% of possessions. So it's been a big-time issue with Brett Brown so far since he's been here. This team throws the ball away. They're very casual with it. They play a type of offense where it's, hey, move the ball, push the pace, just do what you want to do with it, and it would lead to a million turnovers all the time. Well, they've done a really good job at securing the basketball and not playing lackadaisical, and you got to give the team credit because it was a focus point. The team talked about it. They discussed it. The head coach mentioned it over and over again that they needed to fix that problem. Well, over the last 15 games, they absolutely fixed that problem. As I stated, they are the fourth best team in the NBA over that span when it comes to possessions and turning the basketball over. So you need to recognize that. They put in a game plan. They attack that mindset, and the team has been practicing. That doesn't happen in the NBA. They've been practicing throughout the regular season. Don't tell me the coach is too soft, this, that, and the other thing. He's putting the team through practices in a regular season. That doesn't happen. That's because they're changing the focus. That's because they're being a little bit tougher on these guys, saying they got to drill in the stuff they want to drill in so they can be effective and that they can play at the level that they want them to play at. So a lot to uncover there, a lot that I did uncover there, and to put it full circle, we got to just give you the moral of the story, and that's with Joel Embiid's injury. I'm concerned about this team not being able to play a ton of minutes together as a unit because they're going to need to. They have struggled as a starting five. They did not get that down yet. We thought by now that they would. They didn't. That's reality. They have not nailed it down to the point that we need them to for them to make a legit push at this thing, and losing Joel Embiid for that significant amount of time will be a problem, and factor in that he's not going to be back for a while, and if he does ever come back, if he does ever, he definitely will at some point, but when he does, he will not be in shape. And that concerns me. So there you have it. I want to know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.